Welcome. Let's get right into today's explainer. Ayis adbut kahani ko garib se samjhe. Let's understand this wonderful story closely. We're looking at the incredibly fascinating folktale of the Golden Hilsa, coming straight out of the small village of Mohanpur. It's a story that perfectly blends the magic of the natural world with, well, the very real, often messy human condition. On the surface, sure, it's a tale about a glowing fish. But as we'll uncover today, it's really a deep dive into how we react when we're suddenly handed the ultimate blessing.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the central mystery we really need to unravel today is what actually happens when a pure, life-saving miracle collides head-on with human greed? Like, does the magic just vanish, or does it mutate into something way more dangerous? To see exactly how a literal blessing can twist into a deadly curse, we have to go back to the beginning, right when the village of Mohanpur was facing an absolute catastrophe.
Section 1. The Flood and the Fish. You know, every great fable really starts with a profound test of survival, and this one is absolutely no exception.
So, picture this. Before the disaster even hit, Chetan, Nikita, and their daughter Beena were living in crushing poverty. I mean, they literally had nothing to eat but puffed rice. Then, the terrifying news hits. The river dam broke. And as the floodwaters are literally destroying their home, little Beena spots something impossible in the rushing water. It's a glowing, golden hilsa fish. In a pure panic, they scoop this glowing miracle into a bucket and carry it with them as they run for their lives.
Now, while most folks fled the village, one beloved figure actually stayed behind, the village's old woman. She bravely, or maybe just stubbornly, refused to leave, basically climbing onto her roof as the dark waters rose around her. She somehow survived the terrifying ordeal totally alone, and really, she sets up as this incredible, resilient, emotional anchor for the rest of our story.
Moving into Section 2, The Golden Secret. When those terrifying floodwaters finally receded, the family headed back home, and that's when they discovered the true nature of their rescue.
It turns out, this glowing fish wasn't just, pretty to look at. It was a literal lifesaver. Every single morning, like clockwork, this mystical golden hilsa would magically produce a fresh batch of incredibly delicious, highly sought-after eggs. Think about that for a second. In a village totally devastated by a flood, where food was practically non-existent, this magic effectively saved Chetan's family from starvation. They had daily sustenance right there in a bucket. It was a pure, quiet blessing.
And this brilliantly illustrates the moral contrast at the absolute core of today's explainer. You have Chetan's family, feeling nothing but quiet, humble gratitude for their survival. But then, little Beena innocently lets the secret slip to their neighbor, Deepa. The second Deepa lays eyes on that glowing fish, it's a completely different story. Instead of gratitude, we see an immediate, total descent into greed. She doesn't want survival, she wants luxury. We're talking instant dreams of huge profits and fancy red saris.
Which brings us to Section 3. Greed and the Theft. This is where the temptation of endless wealth completely overtakes basic morality.
Listen to this quote from Deepa. "This fish might change our lives. We have to steal it." That right there perfectly captures her blinding ambition. She's telling her husband Deepak that they just have to take it. But notice, she isn't acting out of hunger. Not at all. It's purely a blinding desire for unearned wealth. She just sees this massive shortcut to the high life, and she's totally willing to betray her vulnerable neighbors to get it.
So they plan the heist, and it's incredibly cold and calculating. Deepa and Deepak literally wait until the dead of night, sneak right into Chetan's kitchen, and, well, it's not hard to find a glowing bucket, right? They snatch the fish and slip away into the dark. Fast forward to the next morning, and little Beena is absolutely devastated. Her constant companion through the flood is gone, and her family is powerless to find it. Now we hit Section 4, the deadly epidemic, and things take a very dark, urgent turn as the consequences of manipulating a natural miracle rapidly unfold. Tracing this timeline, the escalation is terrifyingly fast. Day 1, the fish is stolen. By day 2, Deepa and Deepak are gorging on the eggs themselves and selling the rest to the village at a massive markup, completely lying about where they got them. But day 3, absolute disaster. A deadly stomach epidemic sweeps through the village. And the most chilling part? It only struck the people who bought those stolen eggs. Tragically, the beloved old woman of the village, who had just eaten a meal of the eggs gifted to her by Deepa, suddenly passes away.
Which makes this quote incredibly hard to swallow. The old woman had literally just told people, "During the flood, I saw humans and animals unite to survive. No one harmed anyone." Lean into that dramatic irony for a second. This incredibly tough woman survived the absolute wrath of nature. Even snakes seeking refuge on her roof didn't bite her, only to be tragically killed by the toxic greed of her own neighbors during peacetime.
So the crucial point is, why did this happen? Why did these miraculous eggs suddenly turn into poison? Well, Chaitan's family had eaten them for days and were perfectly fine. The fable is basically screaming its core lesson at us here. The magic itself didn't change. The intention behind it did. When the magic was used for humble survival, it brought life. But the second it was stolen and manipulated by greed, it literally transformed into a deadly curse.
That leads us to Section 5, Confession and Redemption, because eventually, the consequences always catch up.
And karma strikes Deepa and Deepak hard. I mean, they fall critically ill, with the exact same deadly stomach pains as their customers. Picture them, bedridden, absolutely terrified, watching the rest of the village slowly start to recover, and it hits them, a profound realization that all that money, all those dreams of luxury, mean absolutely nothing when you're on the brink of death. Their stolen wealth literally cannot save them.
Facing their own mortality, their stubbornness finally breaks. Deepa and Deepak surrender. They call for Beena's family, they confess to the whole thing, and they beg for forgiveness. They hand back the bucket with the glowing hilsa and vow to never let greed run their lives again. It's a really powerful moment that highlights how true healing, both for the village and for the thieves themselves, only really begins with an honest confession.
Finally, we arrive at Section 6, Return to the River, the moral conclusion of our story.
Now, you might think Chaitan's family just takes the fish back and lives happily ever after, right? Actually, scratch that. Beena's parents show incredible wisdom here. Her father simply says, a river fish belongs in the river. They realize that trying to possess and hoard nature's miracles, even if your intentions are good, disrupts the natural balance and invites disaster. So they tell a very tearful Beena that it's time to let it go.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how complete harmony is restored only after that balance is respected. Beena releases the hilsa back into the deep water, and it just swims away peacefully. And immediately the village fully recovers. Deepa and Deepak, humbled and permanently reformed, and Chaitan simply goes back to his honest work, selling clothes village to village. But check this out, his business absolutely booms naturally. He's rewarded with genuine, uncursed prosperity.
Which leaves us with a pretty heavy question. The story of Mohanpur and the Golden Hilsa is this timeless reminder about the fragility of blessings. We all want that miracle, right? That sudden wealth or success. But if you were actually handed the ultimate golden opportunity, would you have the wisdom of Chaitan's family to use it humbly? More importantly, if you found the Golden Hilsa, would you have the strength to know when it was time to let it go? Something to really think about. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope this story leaves you with something profound to ponder today.